Well, it's done. The Pershing tank has been completed. A bit difficult because of similar parts that were so similar, maybe a millimeter or two off, and you put the wrong part in the wrong place, and I had that happen during the construction of the turret, but otherwise not bad, and it was nothing that delayed me. And here's the actual tank. The instructions are fairly clear. It was pretty easy to follow, with the exception of the similar parts, because there are a lot of small similar parts in the creation of the turret. That caused some issues and some time delays because they had to be disassembled and parts looked up against each other compared to the pictures that were in the instructions, and it took a little bit. But once that was sorted out, perfect. It rolls perfectly. The fit of the bricks are phenomenal, and the best part, let me show you this very carefully. The detail of the engine bay. The thing just slides right out, and you literally can see everything. And it goes back in, it's held in place by this little thing here. Awesome. You take it off and you can see. And this thing is pretty much the way these tanks are in real life. And the detail and the specialty parts that they make just make these kits even better and better. And I have to say, this is probably the best tank that they have as far as detail. The way it works, it rolls perfectly. The thread, the wheels, everything's synchronized really nice. And it does a really nice job. You roll it on a desk, on a carpet, nice elevation with the gun. The detail of the one figure is pretty good. I have them on this side. On the instructions, have them in the other hatch. I prefer them with this one for now. 50 caliber machine gun on the back. And actually a very superb, extremely superb model. I'm very pleased with it. Worth the work, the effort, and the time to find one and actually able to purchase it. And this tank is actually an important tank because after World War II, when the Korean War started, they were utilizing basically whatever they had that wasn't demobilized, which were M24 Chaffee light tanks, which I happen to have one, which would be these. Bear with me for a second because it's got some battle damage that I have to repair. Would be these light tanks, which came out at the end of the Second World War, but available in big numbers and pretty easy to service, so they were relying on these, and all the older Sherman tanks were being given off as war aid to Allied countries, and all of the other tanks, the later model Shermans, they were allowing them to be used National Guard and other duties like that. So when they went to Korea, they were encountering, and I don't have one, but I have something close, Soviet-made medium tanks. Actually T-34-85s. This is a T-55, so different tank, but just kind of give you a dimensional. And these little Chaffee tanks just were not up to it. They're basically armored reconnaissance vehicles, not battle tanks that go fighting battles. So they brought some M4 Shermans in to hold off the Soviet T-34 tanks. And they brought these because they were still producing these. This was produced as a heavy tank at the end of World War II. Well, when World War II ended, there were no Tiger tanks and Panther tanks to fight. Well, you had this technological wonder, probably the best tank that we had in the Second World War, available for duty. So what do? You ship them to Korea. There is no designation anymore during the Korean War. Light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, because the whole definition had to be reworked, being what was faced on the battlefield at the time. So under these beasts on the battlefield, basically ripping apart and sustaining damage and fight tank to tank with the T-34-85s. So you got the Sherman, which is basically old technology, and you have this. Well, during Korea, the whole idea of what a tank was changed. You have light reconnaissance tanks, and you have main battle tanks. They will wind up calling them MBTs. This essentially is the first main battle tank in the U.S. Army arsenal. And basically they were improving it as they went along. They weren't mass producing it. There were upgrades to the transmission, engine, turret. Went into another model called the M46 patent, which is basically this with a lot of improvements. And then from there, the line kept going with improvements and all the way up to the M60, which superseded the Abrams. So this tank spawned a long lineage of U.S. armor. So just for that alone, it's kind of a cool thing to have. And it was actually used in that capacity in Korea, and then kind of cemented armored technology and the way armor has been used in the United States since then. So when you look at this proportionately to the Soviet tank that I showed you, this is basically based off a medium tank. This tank is kind of based off a T-34. When we encountered them in the battlefield, if that would ever happen, look at the difference in size of what they were using as a main battle tank versus what we were using. And things would change. They would get a little bit bigger. We would get kind of smaller with stuff, but basically this set the standard for a long, long time without us actually going to war against them. So, for whatever it's worth. But a great model. Cobi T26, which actually became M26 Pershing. Heavy tank initially, main battle tank thereafter. They used these from like 1945 to 1955. In 1955, the M46 replaced these, and then the M47 replaced the M46. So things were changing rapidly, but this is a good foundation and a good start and a good kind of model to have. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I wasn't too scatterbrained with everything that I was doing. And enjoy, and I'll have another video up sometime in the future. Thank you, and bye.